Hello, in this video I want to share with you this 1099 trucking accounting and tax deduction template that I built. I built this template mainly for 1099 truck driver who do not own or lease the truck. So typically a 1099 truck driver, they would use the truck of the carrier, the company that they work with, and they get a percentage of the load revenue. And so this template is mainly built for 1099 truckers so that they could organize their income and expenses and then track their tax deductions. Okay, so I am an accountant. I'm a certified public accountant, a CPA. So I built this from a very accounting perspective and from what I learned in accounting. And so, with that being said, I just want to say that, this template and this video is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not tax, legal, or financial advice. Always consult a qualified tax professional for guidance on your specific situation. All right. So, with that being said, what we're going to do is we're just going to go over each of the tabs that you get when you purchase this item, and then after that we'll go through an example, and then I can show you how it looks when everything is filled out. All right, so if you're interested in this item, you can purchase this on Etsy and also on my website. So if you purchase this item on my website, it's a little bit cheaper. You get 10% off. And this is my website here. So let me show you the item. So this is the item here. So you purchase this item, it's a little bit cheaper and you get 10% off. So just make sure that when you purchase this item, put Maha 10 in the checkout, and then you get 10% off. And there's no taxes on my website because I take care of the taxes for the customer. Okay, so it's definitely much cheaper than on Etsy. All right, so let's go over the template real quick. So you purchase this item, you get a tax guide. So here are some informational purposes that you can read through for 1099 truck drivers. And then here's the settings. So here's where you would put in your company name or information, and then you can set up all of your categories for delivery status, all of your expenses for travel, business and miscellaneous categories expenses, and then your payment method, and then the carrier name or the company that you work with. Okay, and then income and settlement is where you log in your load income, and then here is where you can put a percentage or a cut of what you get from that load revenue. And if you are a 1099 truck driver, who get a higher percentage, and but in return you need to pay for like fuel maintenance, you can put the fuel maintenance deduction here if it gets deducted out of your statement. And then I also added any non-deductible item that you can list here too, and then it automatically will calculate your net settlement or net payout, and that should match your statement. Okay, and then your travel and per diem is where you come here and log all of your travel expenses. So you can log, per diem, partial day or full day rate, and then you can log, meals, um, lodging, parking, tolls, and anything like that related to your business expense. You can log it here, and it automatically calculate it for you. And then the business and miscellaneous, same thing. You can log all of your expenses, and then you can put, the percentage that is related to your business. So let's say you spend $100 on cell phone bills, and let's say 90% that is business related. You can put 90% here, and it'll calculate automatically that you get deducted $90 out of your statement for tax deduction. And then mileage trackers of your 1099 worker, and you don't have like regular commute, so you commute to different location or yards to get your truck. You can also deduct mileage as well. So you just need to keep track of it, right? So it's good to keep track of it because the miles add up, and you can deduct 67 cents as of 2025 per the IRS for each mile. All right, so this is the estimated tax calculator here. So you just need to input in what your federal income tax bracket, your state income tax bracket, and then the self-employment tax bracket, and automatically calculate your tax deductions for you based on the income, net income before tax amount. Okay, so this is the financial statement. So anything that you've input in the income and all the expenses automatically pull to your financial statement. So you'll get the financial statement from for monthly, quarterly, and annually as well. So let me scroll over here so you can see. So you get a year to date. All right. And then here you can see all the income that you receive for your trucking, and then all deductible expenses, and then your estimated taxes here. Then you get a net income after tax, and then you have a net cash flow after tax and expenses. So these are the expense deduction breakdown here. And then down here, I also added a reconciliation and a cash flow, so you can see what your cash flow is after tax as well. Okay. And then comparative financial here is, it's pretty nice because you can compare any 2 months to see if you're doing well one month compared to another. So it just basically this financial statement, but you can grab any 2 months that you like and you can compare them. Okay. All right. And then lastly is the dashboard. This is a pie chart, but there's no data, so it's not showing. So you have a dashboard here, and you can pick it, select any time interval you want. You can pick any month, quarter, and year to date. So once you have data, it should populate based on the information that, or the time period that you selected. And this is visual data. All right. So those are basically the tabs that you'll get. So let's do an example right here. So first you need to input the date, right? So let's say we did this in January 2025. You can put the load trip number, whatever makes sense to you, right? I'll just put this as a trip number 1, and you can put driver name if you want, and then truck number, and then origin, let's say it's from origin, let's say it's from Seattle, Washington to Miami, Florida. Okay, pickup date. So you can pick any pickup date here. I don't know. Let's do this. Well, okay, as an example, and then delivery date and delivery status. You can select any status you want here. So this status, this drop-down menu, come from this setup here. So whatever you set here, it will be part of the drop-down menu here. Okay, so you can change this as well, up to your needs and preference. Loaded miles, let's say it's I don't know, maybe 3,000 mile, and then empty miles 20. So these are total mile that you travel. And then carrier name, again, this is from the drop down. You can put it here. You can update the carrier name or company name that you work here, and then it'll be part of this drop down. So let's say you're working for Trucking Co. And then load revenue, let's say you get, there's this 6,500, and let's say your driver is cut. So I want to show something here. So this 40% here is the amount that you typically get. So let's say you work with a company and majority of the time you get 40%. So you can put 40% here, and automatically you can see if I hit 60, if I put 6,500, automatically calculate 40%. Okay, so the reason why I do this is, so you have to keep putting 40%, 40%, 40% each time, right? So let's say in this load, let's say instead of getting 40%, you get 60%. You can see the numbers change a bit, right? Because this one's calculating 60% instead of 40. So basically, if this load here is 40%, just leave it alone. But if it's something else, you can change that number to anything you want. And the reason I have this again up here is just, so you don't have to type it all the time if you have, if you work with a company that you take, a fixed 40%. But if it changes, you can just change it, okay? All right, so I'll keep it at 40% for now. And then here's the piece where if you work with a carrier and they take a portion for fuel and maintenance expense, then you can put that amount that they deducted. So let's say deducted 250, okay? And then, if there's any non-deductible, you can put there too. So we'll just put 65. So this is your total deduction on your stub, right? And this is your net payout, because this is the load revenue. You get 40%. They deducted out fuel expense here. And then they deducted out another, like maybe wage garnishment of 65. So this is non-deductible, but total deduction is 315. So your net settlement, the net payout that they give you is 2,285. Okay. And let's say we have some per diem on this. So let's say 1/1, 1/2, 2025. So you can pick per diem full day here. So you notice with per diem, you can see it automatically calculate that it's $64. So in 2025, per the IRS, full rate, a full day of per diem is $80, but you can only deduct 80% of it. Okay. And then if you look at partial per diem, you can the per diem amount is 75% of this $80, which is $60, but you can only deduct 80% of it, so which means you can deduct $48 if you do partial per diem. Okay. All right. So you can put in description, location if you want, like like maybe dinner and lunch, and this is breakfast and lunch. Okay. And you can put location if you want, where it is. Let's say you go to Portland, Oregon, and then payment method, what you pay with, credit card, amount spent. So this is like the actual amount that you spent on the meal. So let's say of the $64 that the IRS let you deduct, you only spend, $35 for these two meals. So you're saving a lot of money, right? So the difference between these two is pretty much tax-free income, basically. And then here again, so instead of $48, you spend 25, so you do have some savings. Okay, so you can think of it this way, like when I was doing auditing and I traveled and they give me per diem of $100 a day, but I only spend like $25 because I was being cheap, trying to save money. So I got $75, right, tax-free income, basically. So this helps you track how much money you're saving between your tax deduction and actually how much you paid. Okay. And then you have other options as well. You have lodging, tolls, parking scale, or anything that you paid for that, relating to your business for the travel of the truck. Or okay. And so these drop down again, it's coming from this setting here that you can set up. All right. So let's add one more expense. 20, 25. So let's say we had another lodging, and then so anything that is not per diem, and anything that's actually not per diem will just go yellow. So you can see, right, this lodging is not per diem, so it turns yellow, and you can just put $100 there, and this is the amount that will be deducted, right? Just $100. Okay, and miscellaneous expense, same thing. If you have any miscellaneous expense, you can just input here, like if you need to buy boots or like protective equipment or anything like that, you can put it here. You have training, education fees or anything like that. You can put that here as well. So maybe you buy office supplies or anything, maybe you buy from Amazon, for your business. Then the total amount paid, let's say you paid 150 and all of this is 100%, if it's 100% you don't need to put, but let's say you only 90% of this is for business, then you can put 90% here. Okay, so you can see deductible is 135 because 90% of 150 is 135, so the other $15 is non-deductible because that other $15 you're probably using it for personal, right? So it's not business related. All right, so then mileage tracker. Oops, didn't mean to click that. Mileage tracker here is where, if you travel to different location all the time, right, to pick up the truck, then you can deduct the miles. So there's two ways of doing this. One way is you log all your miles and you take a rate times those miles that you travel, and then the other option is you can track all the costs related to your car and then log that into the I guess travel and per diem, like all of the expenses related to your personal car, like fuel, fuel, like gas that you need to put in your personal car to drive there, maintenance. So it's a lot of work. So usually what people do is they just record a mile, so are all the miles, and then they just take the rate that the IRS give them. So this is the easiest option. So I do have some explanation and more info on that on the tax guide, so you can read through that. Okay, so let's say for example we travel to this location and it's not our regular commute, right? So then we can deduct it. So let's say I had to start, I don't know, like I live in, let's say I live in Mount Vernon, so I'll start Mount Vernon, right? Washington, then I had to go to Seattle because usually I can just pick up the truck in Seattle, but now I have to go to Seattle, right? It's a very different, it's a one-time thing. So I can put pickup truck. Okay, and then let's say it's, I don't know, 30 miles that I travel, right? I mean, 30 miles might seem like nothing, but over time, if you do this a lot, where you travel a different location, the miles add up, right? So you can get a lot more deduction. And then the estimated tax calculator here, just put in your what you think your federal income tax bracket is, your state income tax bracket. Okay, so I'll just put 15% and 5% here. I don't actually recall what the actual Social Security and Medicare rate is, but I will just put in 7% and 6%. Okay, but please verify what that rate is for you. Um, so you just put in the rate in all of the yellow area here and automatically calculate the estimated taxes for you. And here you can pick from a drop down like any month, right? It'll calculate. The reason why you see when I selected February, it doesn't have a value is because we didn't put any values for February. We only enter in data for January. So you can see January we had total income of this, deductible expenses of this, net profit loss before taxes this, and the estimated tax based on these rate that we entered. All right, so it's just another view here. And then you're set my target deduction. You can put any amount you want here, as a target. You don't have to do this. You can do it if you want, you just put some value here, see what you want your target deduction is, and see if you're on track or not, okay? Just something fun to play around with. All right, and then on the financial statements, you can see it automatically pull that data over. So this is our total income, all of our trucking sources. So this one is pulling 2600. The reason why it's pulling 2600 because this is your pay or the driver's cut, right? So it takes this amount. This is all your income coming in. So the IRS wants to know all of your income coming in and then all your deductions. So you can see your deductible expenses here. The fuel, it is being deducted, right? It's being reduced here. So you can see then I take your all of your income. So this template, it takes all of your income, which is the 2600, your driver's cut right here, and then it deducts out any deductible expenses, right? So this fuel, maintenance, it's deductible, so that's why it put here. And then per diem, this is deductible amount. So if you recall, the full per diem day is $80, but you can only deduct 80% of that $80, so $64, right? So partial per diem, same thing. Partial per diem is $60, but you can deduct 80% of it, which is 48. And then lodging, we had $100 of expenses, so this is our total travel and per diem. And then mileage, you can see we had $20.10 deductible, mainly because we driven 30 miles. 30 miles times 67 cents, so that's about $30, okay? Or I'm sorry, $20. $20.10. And then you have business and expenses here. So we logged in $135 for business expense. So it populated here. So our total deductible expenses for that month is $617. So you can see it took your total driver's cut, which is 2600 minus all of your deduction for that month, and then it calculated your estimated tax based on the rate that you provided, and it give you a net income after tax, and then you have a net cash flow after taxes and expense. Your net cash flow is typically higher, mainly because these are due to non-deductible items or deductible item that is cash or non-cash related, right? So for example, right here you can see that this here is non-cash, right? I mean, yes, you get $20.10, $20.10 deductible, but that doesn't mean that you spend this $20.10, right? So that's why your cash is a little bit higher than your net income after tax. And then same thing, here you can see your per diem expenses. So total per deductible per diem is $112, right? So you can deduct what that 64 and 48, which is 112, but you only spend let's see, $60. So you save $52. So that's why your cash um, flow after tax is a little bit higher than your net income after tax, okay? So cash flow is typically always higher. And then I have an explanation as to why they don't match, so you can read that as well. So I do have a reconciliation just to make sure all the numbers check out. So if all this balance checked and the difference here, the profit versus cash flow difference is 0, that means it's correct. The template is working correctly. So it's just a way for me and for this template to check the math, okay? So it's pretty cool. So everything you input, it just automatically pull over and you can have this very nice financial statement, okay? And if you start your business in a different month than January, you can control it up here. You can see when I hit January, it starts here, right? But when I hit February, it starts here, okay? And then you can control the year. So you can go up to 2050. So basically you can use this template forever. You purchase this template once and then you can use it forever. So you don't have to pay subscription fee or anything like that. And then next is the comparative statement. So you can pick any 2 months, so January here. And because I only entered in data for 1 month, then there's nothing for February, so it just tells you dollar change. There's really no percentage change yet. But I will show you how this work later with the information that or a template that's all filled out, so you can see the percentage change as well. But this is just for a way for you to compare any 2 period. You can compare any quarter. With another quarter and see how you're doing. Are you doing better 1 quarter or 1 month from another? Okay. And then lastly is the dashboard here. As you can see, things are starting to populate because we enter data in for January. And so right here, February we have nothing, and then January is here. So as we can see here, you have the estimated taxes here, and then it tells you how many per diem full day did you get. For January you only have one per diem day, and then one partial per diem, and then you have always travel, miscellaneous expense, and then you have visual data here. Okay, so from this I can see that we have our net profit. So our cash flow is a little bit less than our net income after tax. So let me just go back, because usually it's higher. 328. So let's see where the difference is coming from. Oh, so the reason why your your cash flow is a bit lower, because earlier I said usually it's a bit higher. The reason why it's a bit lower is because this non-deductible expenses here, right? You couldn't deduct it, but you still spent cash on it, right? You still have to pay $65. That's cash coming out of your paycheck, so that's why it reduces your cash flow a bit. But let's say you didn't have the $65, you can see it's going to be very much higher. Not very high, but much higher. See? So 1385. Because the reason why it's going to be higher is because you don't have any deductible here, right? Earlier, it'll be lower because you had some $65 of wage garnishment. You cannot deduct wage garnishment, but that's still cash you paid out, okay? So usually, from what I know, when I'm working on this and doing this, usually your cash flow should be higher because you tend to have more deductions than what you spend. But that's just typically how I've seen it, but your situation can be different, okay? So let me just go to the dashboard real quick. So here you can see your cash here is you have $57.10 more than your net income after tax, right? So typically, yeah, your cash flow should be a little bit higher than your net income. Unless you have more non-deductible deduction that is cash, then you have less cash flow than your income. All right. But this thing here tells you your load revenue, your net pay, your taxable income for the month, and you can search by the quarter as well. The quarter and the month will be the same because we only input in data for January and you have the same quarter. And then you can select any month as well, and then year to date. Okay, this is just visual data. All right, so that's basically how it works. And I know, like, I think some truckers, they want to know how many per diem they have, or for the month or the year. So here it just counts it right for you. And the other thing you can do is you can go here and just filter out per diem and then print this out, so you can have a record of all your per diem for the year or the month. Okay. The other thing I want to mention is, okay, let's say that you are 1099 truck driver and they do not deduct your fuel expenses here, but that's something that you need to take care of yourself. So let's say you get a higher percentage. Let's say they give you like 75%, but you still need to take care of the fuel and maintenance of the car, right? But they don't deduct it out of your statement. How would you record that? So you would just come here, right, to the travel and per diem area, and basically just set up something called fuel expense or maintenance. All right, hopefully I spell maintenance correctly. So here you can just go here, right, and then select, fuel expense, and then you can just put those expense, and that will be deductible and automatically flow to your financial statement. Okay, so let's do an example. So let's say we had to spend for fuel, right? So you can put description you want, location you want, so how you paying this with your credit card, right? So in this example, you have to pay the fuel yourself, but in exchange, they're giving you a higher percentage of the load revenue, right? A higher driver's cut. So let's say in that trip, let's say you spend $300 in fuel. Okay, so you can see that amount right now. It's gonna flow to the financial. You can see fuel 300. So instead of it being here, it being deducted out of your statement, your 1099 statement, it will be deducted out of here because the agreement was that they'll pay you a higher percentage, but you take care of all the fuel and maintenance yourself out of your pocket, right? Okay, so that's one way to do it. If you have a situation where they don't deduct it out of your pay stub and you have to take care of it on your own, right? They just give you a higher cut. All right. So hopefully that helps. And then so let me show you an example where everything is filled out, so you can see how it looks like when you have everything filled out. Okay, so here is a template where I have some items filled out. Okay, so as you can see, another thing I want to point out that I forgot to show on the other one is, let's say you have training or something that they give you training for, and you have to sit through a whole class or course for the day, and they pay you as well. They have to pay you for your time, right? Let's say they pay you $800 for that day or for training. Instead of getting a cut from it, you get 100%, right? So all you have to do is log training, right? And then just put 100%, then you get the total amount, and then this total amount will flow to your financial. Okay. All right. So if you have training or anything that they give you like a bonus or anything, just put that training or bonus and then just put 100%. Okay. So this is it all being filled out. Okay. And then per diem as well, I have it all filled out here. Okay, and just a reminder, the reason why this is yellow is because it's not related to per diem, and anything that is not yellow is non is per diem. Okay, so it's just a different way of like seeing things. And then business expense, I log all this here, and then mileage tracker, I log some of it here. Estimated calculator, I did put in some values. And then financial statement, as you can see, it's quite filled out, right? Everything is filled out. Let me just zoom it out a bit so you can see. Right, so all data will flow there. You can see. All right. And then on the comparative financial, here's what I want to show you. So let's say you do February. So this column D should be the most recent, and then column F should be the previous period. So you can see there's a dollar change in this too. And the reason why here in January you don't have any self-employment taxes because you had a net loss. Okay, you don't pay taxes when you have a net loss. Okay, you only pay taxes when you make money. So that's why you see here it doesn't have any, what do you call this? Have any estimated taxes at all, because the number here is negative, right? So here you can see the difference, between a two period, it told you dollar change and percentage change, all right? So basically just a way for you to see if your company or business is growing or not. All right, so helping you see a trend basically. So okay, pick any quarter, any month to view. All right, so maybe I'm just picking the same quarter. Yes, I am. All right, so see, it should populate. And then here's the dashboard. Again, visual data. So you can see here, right? Any month that you pick, it should update, right? Data should populate. Okay, and then it counts the per diem day, how many days you have for that month, that quarter, whichever, right? So here you did 4 days for the whole entire year, 13, 16 days. So it counts how many days you have. So that's basically it. I also do customization. You see this and you like it, and but you want it customized to your workflow or your business, so it's easy for you to enter data. feel free to reach out to me. So I do customization for truckers all the time. So just reach out to me. And again, if you're interested in purchasing this, check out the link in the description. Again, you can purchase it on my website. Just enter in Maha10, you get 10% off. Thank you.